you discovered your entire nation was cursed, not by enemies, not by war, but by the sins hidden inside your own kingdom. When young King Josiah uncovered a forgotten book buried beneath the ruins of the temple, everything changed. Because the words inside were so terrifying, they made a king tear his own clothes in fear. He did not step into a peaceful world, nor did he grow up in a safe and peaceful time. Instead, he inherited a bloody future wrapped in violence and terror. At just 8 years old, a terrified boy stood inside the cold stone walls of a massive royal palace. The air still carried the sharp metallic smell of fresh copper from the blades used that morning. The heavy gold crown of Judah was lowered onto his small head, tilting slightly as he trembled. The throne he sat upon was literally stained with his father's unwashed blood, a dark reminder of the crown's terrible cost. "Long live the king!" The court officials cheered in unison, their voices echoing off the high stone ceilings, but their cheers were hollow, and their eyes gleamed with predatory malice. Behind their heavy silk robes, many hid daggers. One older advisor leaned down, his breath smelling of stale wine, and whispered in the boy's ear, "Do not worry, little king. Just sit still, sign the papers we give you, and you might live to see your next birthday." The boy's father, King Ammon, had just been brutally murdered by his own servants in a violent attack inside the palace. His grandfather, King Manasseh, had been an evil tyrant who filled the streets of Jerusalem with innocent blood. Now, the crown belonged to a child who was entirely alone. This 8-year-old boy was handed a collapsing kingdom, surrounded by hostile empires sharpening their spears. The people had completely forgotten who they were, and an ancient, terrifying curse was quietly ticking away under the palace floors. But a silent, dangerous fire was beginning to burn inside this child's heart. His name was Josiah. This is the story of how one young king looked directly into the jaws of absolute darkness and decided to tear them apart. To understand the dread hanging over Josiah's head, you have to look into the horrific world his family built. For nearly 60 years, Judah had plunged into a nightmare of human cruelty. King Manasseh did the unthinkable, forcefully dragging demonic gods into the very temple of the Lord, building occult altars inside the holy sanctuary and setting up twisted, monstrous statues of the goddess Asherah. Old men in the city streets would grasp their children's arms and whisper in terror. Keep your eyes on the ground when you pass the valley. Do not look at the smoke and cover your ears, or the screams will hunt you in your sleep. They were talking about the massive, fiery altars in the Valley of Hinnom, where parents were forced to surrender their crying babies to the red-hot iron hands of a monstrous fake god named Molech. The priests of Baal would beat their drums with furious speed to drown out the shrieks of the infants burning alive. The nation had turned its back on light. The holy laws given to Moses were completely wiped out. The holy scrolls were actively hunted down and destroyed until they were erased from public memory. A whole generation grew up never hearing how God saved them from Egypt. When Josiah's father, Amon, took the throne, he proudly continued this bloody legacy. "Our fathers worshipped the stars, and the rivers ran with the blood of our enemies," Amon declared, raising a golden cup high. "We will bleed this land until the old gods are satisfied." But his rule was so vicious that his own inner circle assassinated him in his bed after just 2 years. That is how an 8-year-old boy became the ruler of a haunted, broken land. For the first few years of his reign, Josiah was a puppet king, protected by a few remaining loyal advisors. But as the years bled into one another, the boy grew and his eyes opened. When he turned 16, he made a dangerous, defiant choice. He began to look for the true God of his ancestor, King David. He had no scriptures to guide him, only the quiet, forbidden whispers of a forgotten history. Late at night, Josiah would stand on the royal balcony, staring out at the pagan altars gleaming under the moonlight. There must be something more than these silent stone monsters, he whispered. A statue of stone cannot hear a child scream. The true creator must be out there, waiting in the silence, and I will find him. By the time he turned 20, his quiet searching erupted into an outright war against evil. Josiah stood before his military commanders, his voice dropping to a deadly tone. Wipe them out. Leave nothing standing. I want every altar smashed to dust, and I want it done immediately. But my king, one general stammered, the people love these gods. There will be an uprising. Josiah stepped forward. Let them curse us. Our hands are already stained with the blood of our children. If we do not destroy these monsters, they will destroy us. Josiah's soldiers swept through the nation like a storm. They smashed the idols into jagged shards with heavy iron sledgehammers and scattered the dust over the graves of the pagan priests. Josiah personally oversaw the destruction. Dig up their bones, he shouted to his men. Burn the bones of those false prophets on their own broken altars. Let this land know their gods are dead. The soldiers did exactly that, permanently defiling the pagan sites and breaking the spiritual stronghold that had gripped the nation for decades. When Josiah was 26, he turned his eyes toward the grandest building in Jerusalem, the Temple of the Lord. For decades, this once glorious stone house had been neglected and vandalized, its hidden rooms filled with mounds of garbage, dirt, and occult items. Josiah summoned his helper, Shaphan, and the high priest, Hilkiah. Take this royal silver from the treasury, Josiah commanded. Hire the best masons and builders. Tell them to clear the filth and restore the house of the living God. Do not spare any expense. The work began immediately. But as the workers were clearing deep mounds of debris in a dark, sealed sanctuary, Hilkiah's hand hit something solid, hidden behind a false stone wall. It was a scroll, ancient, heavy, and wrapped tightly in rotting linen cloth. It had been buried under the ruins of neglect for over half a century. Hilkiah carefully pulled it from the darkness, blowing the thick dust from its surface. Shaphan, come quickly, Hilkiah whispered in pure shock, his hands trembling. Look at these words. I have found the book of the law in the house of the Lord. Is it truly the book of Moses? Shaphan asked, his voice cracking with awe. It is, Hilkiah breathed. It is the living word of our God. It was the book of Deuteronomy, containing the binding covenant between the Almighty and his people, detailing the terrifying bloody curses for betrayal. Shaphan took the heavy scroll and raced back to the palace. King Josiah sat on his throne, expecting a standard update on construction costs. Instead, Shaphan stood before him with a pale face, holding the scroll tightly against his chest. My king, Hilkiah the priest, has delivered a book to me, a book found in the deep walls of the temple. Read it to me now, the king commanded. Shaphan unrolled the heavy parchment and began to read out loud. As the ancient words echoed through the cold stone halls, a suffocating weight filled the room. The book spoke of a jealous God who would unleash a furious, unquenchable judgment on those who abandoned him. Shaphan's voice shook. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, a nation whose language you will not understand. They will devour your crops until you are destroyed. You will become an object of horror. Josiah listened intently, every word piercing his soul. He saw the child sacrifices of his grandfather and realized they were a condemned people standing on the edge of absolute ruin. Josiah did not make excuses. With a sharp cry of agony, the most powerful man in Judah grabbed the collar of his royal robes and ripped them straight down the middle to his waist. "No!" he screamed, falling to his knees on the cold marble floor, weeping in pure terror. Tearing your clothes was the ultimate sign of absolute horror. "Go!" Josiah commanded his officials, his voice cracking with panic. "Find a way to ask the Lord what we should do. Pray for me and for the survivors. The wrath of the Lord burning against us is absolute." The king's officials ran frantically through the streets of Jerusalem, seeking out a true prophet, a wise woman named Huldah. They burst into her home, presenting the king's desperate plea. Huldah looked at the messengers with cold gravity. "This is what the Lord God of Israel says. Tell the man who sent you that I am going to bring terrible disaster on this place and its people. Every single curse written in the book will come to pass, because they have abandoned me." The messengers gripped their cloaks in fear, but Huldah wasn't finished. "But tell the king of Judah this, because your heart was soft and responsive, and you humbled yourself before God, because you tore your robes and wept in my presence, I have surely heard you. Therefore, I will gather you to your fathers, and you will be buried in peace. Your eyes will not see the horrific disaster that I'm bringing upon the city." When the officials delivered the prophetess's words, Josiah did not break down in relief. Knowing that doom was inevitable did not make him stop. It made him move with frantic speed. If he only had a limited window of time before the fire of judgment fell, he was going to spend every second dragging his people out of the dark. The king called an emergency mega assembly, ordering every single citizen to gather at the repaired temple. A vast sea of anxious faces looked up at their 26-year-old ruler. Josiah stood tall by the grand royal pillar, reading the heavy scroll himself. "Listen to the words of the covenant," his voice boomed. He read every single word of the lost book, letting the weight of the curses hit their ears. When he finished, the king raised his hand toward heaven. "I promise before the living God to follow him with all my heart and all my soul. I swear to obey every commandment written in this book with all my might. Who stands with me?" The high priest stepped forward, followed by the elders, and then the entire crowd stood to their feet, their voices rising like thunder. "We swear to keep the covenant. We stand with the king." Then, the ultimate purge began, a brutal, scorched earth campaign against the occult forces. Drag every single statue and altar dedicated to Baal and Asherah out of the temple, Josiah commanded. "Burn them to ashes outside the city gates!" He fired the corrupt priests on the spot. Next, he marched his army down to the horrifying valley of Hinnom. "Smash it all!" Josiah roared, swinging a hammer himself. "Shatter the bronze statues of Molech! Fill this entire valley with human bones! Let this place be defiled forever, so that no man or woman can ever murder a child in the name of a god again!" The soldiers tore into the pagan shrines with aggressive fury. He destroyed the occult houses operating inside the temple gates and ground the altars built by his grandfather into fine dust, throwing the debris into the valley to be washed away. He even marched his troops north into enemy territory to the ancient occult center of Bethel. "Shatter that golden calf!" he ordered. A local priest ran out screaming, "You cannot touch this altar! It is protected by ancient curses!" Josiah walked right past him, struck the altar with his iron weapon, and ordered his men to tear down the high place. He burned the bones of dead false priests on their own ruined altars to permanently erase the spiritual stain from the earth. When the land was clean, Josiah issued a final command: celebrate the Passover to the Lord your God, exactly as it is written in this book of the covenant. For centuries, the Passover had been completely neglected or celebrated half-heartedly, but not this time. The king personally provided 30,000 lambs and goats from his own royal herds. Massive fires were lit across Jerusalem, casting a warm glow over the stone walls. The Levites and the singers screamed praises into the dark night sky. Old men wept as they ate, passing the meat to their grandchildren and whispering, "This is what the light feels like. We were dead in the dark, but the king brought us back." The ancient scriptures record a bone-chilling summary of that night. Josiah ruled with iron righteousness for 31 years, holding back the storm of judgment through the sheer force of his own devotion. His life ended tragically on a blood-soaked battlefield at Megiddo, trying to stop an invading Egyptian army from marching through his territory. As he lay dying from an arrow wound, his servants wept around him. "What will become of us now, my king?" his servant wept. Josiah looked up at the sky, his breathing shallow. "Keep the book," he whispered. "Do not let the darkness back in."
And the prophet Jeremiah.
His death was mourned by the entire nation, and the prophet Jeremiah wrote songs of grief for him. When the ancient historians looked back at the long line of rulers, they penned these immortal words about him. "Before him, there was no king like him, who turned to the Lord with all his heart and with all his soul and with all his might, according to all the law of Moses." Josiah's story shows us a powerful truth. You cannot kill the truth. People can try to bury it under years of garbage. But all it takes is one person willing to dig through the rubble, look directly into the eyes of the darkness and say, "This ends now." You're never defined by the scars of your past. Stand up, seek the truth, break the generational curses, and let the light back in.